All right, all right, all right. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Jamir Reynolds. I'm the founder and executive director of the Marin County Cooperation Team, better known as MCCT. And welcome to our Southern Marin Community Response Team meeting. Number some folks will be piling in a little bit. Um, Also, for those of you that are not here, don't be jealous, but we got some pastries that were made by one of our culinary business incubator participants, which is fantastic. So that's why you should come. So I always like to start off. So I'm going to be yelling, folks, just so y'all know, because they said they can't. What's your name? Tell the folks who you are.
Hi everyone, this is April with Marin County Public Health. I just wanted to share that county employee email addresses are going to be updated to our first last name at marincounty.gov. It was previously .org, so just keep that in mind when you're sending any emails to any county employees. Also, we have the County of Marin Career Fair tomorrow, January 24th from 9 a.m. to 12.
Thank you, April. Paul, put your hand down, brother. You just told Mary Lisa about it. You just did it too. All right. How you doing? Anybody in the room got any announcement?
You guys tell me to talk up in this room.
Right. Listen. It's cold in here. Listen. If you look at the thermostats, all of them say 80. Trust me, we are tropical people. I know. All right? I know.
Snow boots.
I know. Real quick before we go to the next slide, just a couple of things. Got some great people in the house, Brother Phil Logan, the community school director. We got a special sighting of Cynthia Williams from Center for Domestic Peace. We got the assassin in the building, Miss Ida Green. Maria just strolled in. Real quick, y'all, the money is out there to get the work done. As you can see, millions of dollars that are on the table. And as long as we keep continuing to try to do this by ourselves, they will continue to ignore us. We can go farther together. There's nothing wrong with collaborating. There's nothing more attractive to a funder than who you are working with. And they know that this project is not reliant on their money because working together, you're going to get it done. Manny just said it's all what? $5 million. We downplay that like that's not a lot of money, but there are some agencies that are holding together by spit and duct tape. And their pride is keeping them from getting a seat at the table. It's time to put our pride in the pocket, folks. And I'll say this even in front of, especially with black agencies. We need to come together to get to it. The last thing, I looked up some stats. I love the work that OD Free Marin is doing, and also I received a call last week from one of our constituents who lost their loved one to an overdose. This crisis is impacting, I know, it has impacted MCCT directly. Huh? Oh, I thought I was screaming. The highest usage rates is between the ages of 15 and 29. It's like babies. 71% of the users are white, 65% are male. In 2022, the deaths were 659. In 2023, 657. All of this information is on the OD Free Marin website.
Are we talking fentanyl?
Fentanyl. They have it broken down by opioids and other particular drugs, but all this information is on their website, and they are here today. So again, I really want us to lean into working together. I really want us to lean in and looking at different funding opportunities as a collective. And I also want us to be mindful that this drug and other drugs are killing the people that we love. And some of our young people are using this drug to escape the things that they're going through. Right? So again, I just want to thank you all. Before OD Free Marin comes up, we're going to have next slide, Mr. Shannon Bynum, CRT updates.
All right. Thank you. That's hard to come by. Speaking in collaboration, all of our paid partners, we are just looking to simply come up with one space to commit to. Please reach out. I'm here in the room. If we have, I see a few of us. Don't want to point you out, but we do need to come up with a collective space to do our outreach in regards to Alert Marin. So please get with me after this, and I'll meet you where you are. If you're online, please reach out to me, and we can collaborate just like we all just heard. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Anita Renzetti. I'm the Senior Program Coordinator for OD Free Marin. OD Free Marin is a coalition made up of community members, experts in the field, and of course, us county employees. We work together to stamp out overdoses in Marin and also do prevention. I'm here with our AmeriCorps Vista, Hannah Fishbein, and she will be giving out Narcan as well as great educational materials after the meeting today.
Hi, I'm Hannah Fishbein. I am an overdose prevention coordinator with Marin, OD Free Marin and AmeriCorps, and I will show you how to use Narcan to reverse an overdose. So if you see that someone's overdosing, they're not responsive, they have pinpoint pupils, they're not waking up, call 911 immediately. You can have that on the speakerphone, so you simultaneously while you're talking to the paramedics, and you can deploy your first dose of Narcan. The first sign of an overdose, remember that's if you notice someone is unconscious, unresponsive, they have pinpoint pupils, you will use one of our Narcan sprays and put it inside a nostril, deploy it by pressing this plunger here, and the spray will go up into the nose and deliver the Narcan, an opioid antagonist, to the brain. You wait 3 minutes. During those 3 minutes, you'll roll the person to their left side and put them in the recovery position so they're like this. This is so in case they vomit, they don't aspirate on their vomit. If after 3 minutes they don't seem to be responding to the Narcan, they're still unconscious or not really waking up, you'll deploy a second dose of Narcan. There are 2 doses of Narcan in each kit. You'll usually put that in the other nostril just in case there's something physically blocking the Narcan from being delivered in one versus the other. It's important to mention that right after you deploy the first dose of Narcan, you must call 911. Each dose, each spray will last about 45 minutes. And so that will ensure that there's enough time for the paramedics to arrive and provide additional care.
So what I wanted to say is that we have this community response team partnership now. We have 4 contracts with all of the 4 priority population zones in Marin County. April, who is in the back row here, April Mansilla, she is helping to run this as part of the staff doing it. And OD Free Marin is getting this money from a grant. But we hope for much bigger grants. I'm hearing about $5 million grants. And I just want to say, we need your help in all areas related to teaching kids and adults, others about fentanyl, and as well as how to combat an overdose. So let me go to the next screen. So today's agenda, we'll talk a little bit about the opioid overdose epidemic. Many of you already know, but there are 3 distinct waves here. And touch on Marin County overdose data, which Jamil also did. What are opioids? How to reverse an opioid overdose with Narcan, and then we'll just jump into a few questions before you can ask your questions, okay? And then we'll talk about resources. Next. So this is hard to understand. It's a graph that shows the overdoses increasing, say here. The first amount, this was initially the prescription overdose issue where everyone was overprescribing, and you might have seen some movies or shows or read some books about this or had it personally affect you. The second wave here was when the doctors learned that pain pills were not safe and they cut a lot of people off. And folks who had become addicted to painkillers, say maybe after a back surgery or a hockey injury, are suddenly forced to go to the streets to get those drugs that by then they've become addicted to. This is the wave in the middle here, still going up steadily. My brother actually overdosed from a combination of heroin and methamphetamine as part of this blue wave here, the blue line. But what's been happening since then, particularly since 2013 and up, has been this dramatic wave of opioids, which include all opioids. Of course, prescription pills that are real, counterfeit prescription pills, which contain drugs like fentanyl, and as well as things like heroin, which is also a pain pill. And then down here, the prescribed opioids, those overdoses actually went down. They're only 10% of the overdoses right now. Next. So what would you guess is the median, and that's the one in the middle, overdoses amongst people here in Marin? Would it be age 20, 30, 40, 50, 60? Just throw out a number. We're in the dark here.
40s.
Okay, 40s. Thank you. Anyone else? I'm sure that, okay, thank you. 30s. It's actually, the median age right now is actually 58. 58 years old. So that just means that there's half of the people are below 58 and half are above. But that hides a lot of information, such as Jamil referred to, like who's actually, using fentanyl at this point. And you can see this number over on the left here, the 38 is the young people that we were talking about. And we're worried, we talk a lot about the young people. Why? Why would we talk about them in particular and highlight that issue?
That's the future, right?
Right. That's our future. When the kids die, they're often dying at, say, 18 years old. My good friend Michelle Leopold's son died 18 years old. Think of all those years ahead that they would have been able to have a great life and contribute to society. So we care about everyone, including the elders who are dying from their pain pills when they mix them up and take them with alcohol accidentally or take too many. But one place that we can work hard on prevention is the young folks. Next slide. So this slide was basically saying that we're starting to level off a little bit. Just for the last couple years, we're starting to turn the curve from the year 2021, and this year could be right around 60. It'll be 60 something again, but it's not skyrocketing. So we are turning the curve, but what we really need to do is get this curve moving down. Okay. I should add in a little note here about people of color. Okay, so we hear a lot about how the average person who's dying right now is a white male in his 50s. That would be the average, but again, hiding all kinds of true information. The increase in fentanyl and opioid overdoses is actually in the communities of Black and brown people. So this is not, it doesn't tell you anything to know that 3/4 of the overdoses are men, or that, it just tells you that, yes, it had to do with perhaps that prescription prescribing and people turning to the streets, and now the infiltration of this drug, fentanyl, which is horrifying, and it's 100 times stronger than morphine, 50 times stronger than heroin. So this is what's happening in our communities, and we are losing our valuable family members, colleagues, friends. Okay, next. Who's at risk, as mentioned? It's pretty much the people, of course, that were prescribed opioids. Now they're sending home Narcan. If you go to Kaiser and many other doctors, they send Narcan automatically when they send an opioid overdose, and they send you Percocet, Vicodin, those kinds of pills for pain relief. They will send it with Narcan. Those who have an opioid use disorder, often mixed with a mental health issue, like my brother, he was bipolar, treated himself, tried to stay stabilized, but used illicit drugs. And at that point, high risk for opioid overdose. People leaving jail, for example. We just did 1,000 backpacks that are being assembled with Narcan, information about fentanyl test strips to see if the drugs include fentanyl. and lots of great information about medication-assisted treatment. Why do we do this? Because people in the Marin jails are often, they take away your drugs and then your tolerance goes very low, and then you come out, and if you do drugs, and you do not have that tolerance, it can shut you down. The rates are really staggering. And then, of course, just it can happen to anyone. If you look at a hot map of where the overdoses are happening, they're happening where the population is most dense and in that proportion. So we're getting calls, the paramedics get calls from Tiburon and from the mansions as often as they do from, up north in Nevada, in West Marin, all over our communities, and of course, Southern Marin as well. Opioids, as mentioned, they're a drug. They help you with pain, and they can also give you a slight sense of euphoria. If you're familiar with anyone that's had cancer, fourth stage cancer, and they give them morphine, they also feel a little bit better about life. So people take drugs to get out of pain because they've had childhood experiences, because they were cut off of a painkiller they became addicted to. But the key is that besides feeling sleepy, fentanyl or a high dose of opioids can slow down your breathing. This can make your heart stop, and that's what we're trying to prevent when we reverse an overdose. Next. Fentanyl, just a little picture here says a lot. Imagine those few grains of fentanyl on the tip of the pencil. That amount can shut you down forever. And it's mixed in with drugs, more so nowadays than before with methamphetamine, for example. So we're having people test their powders and their all kinds of different drugs, cocaine, heroin, and of course the prescription pills, which look virtually identical to what you would get from the doctor. It's stamped with the number 30 for Oxy 30, Xanax, if it's Xanax, you would not be able to tell the difference. And of course, as mentioned, it's about 60% of the overdoses right now in Marin are driven by fentanyl. That means, and that's going up, nationwide, that's more like 70%, so nearly 3/4. Okay, now we move on to Narcan, which is why we need you all. We need your help to get Narcan to everybody in Marin. It's just what is needed at this point. It's like parents go, but if you give out Narcan, isn't it like enabling people, like my kid, to try drugs? We've all heard that argument before with condoms, right? It's going to make kids have sex. No, kids are having sex sometimes, and it is a way to prevent pregnancy. Just like this is a way to prevent a kid from dying if they might be experimenting with drugs, or a person, as mentioned, who might have a substance use disorder from dying before they have a chance to try different kinds of treatment. Or say if they relapse, that happens a lot. Relapse is part of the recovery process. It can often take 6 times or so before you are actually able to maintain your recovery. Guess what? People that fall off of that, again, low tolerance and can overdose. That's not what anybody wants. So we use this nasal spray, and the nasal spray itself has 2 doses per kit. I'm going to ask Canada to bring me the little box there. The 2 doses per kit look like this. They come in a little blister pack, and this blister pack, you just peel off the back. This is 4 milligrams. This is a nice sized dose that you can use. And then when you get it, when you take it out of the box, hold on, it's going to look like this in your hand. Oh, and you probably will do that because you'll be nervous, right? Okay, so this is sure, thank you, where you put your fingers on both sides of it, and you're going to be using this and you're going to be spraying the whole thing. But we'll get to that, because remember, there's 2 doses per kit. You might need even more than that with fentanyl. So often we're saying, grab 3 of these from the kit, keep them in the blister pack. I put them in a baggie, and then I put the instructions that we put on the side that are Spanish and English, and they're very clear. So everything I say today is also on the side of the Narcan that we're giving out on the pocket cards, and it's also on the videos on our website. Okay, safe for any age. It's over the counter now. If you buy it, it's about $45 per kit, per box. And we give it away for free, thanks to you. We give it away in vending machines, nalox boxes, which I know a lot of the zones are putting into place. It's also free in the vending machines. There are about 5 of them now, maybe more, but there's going to be 7 soon, and we're going to actually put one. I'm putting one in the Kaiser lobby where you'd be able to come by as a person that's going to your eye appointment and go, wait, I meant to get some Narcan. So there we have vending machines are, and what we've done with outreach with your help have resulted in more than 10,000 of these boxes being given away in the last year with training usually. Next.
I'm new to this. So.
Yeah, it's okay. No, you're doing great. Thank you. So these are the steps to reverse an opioid overdose. You know, first you got to figure out how do I know they're overdosing? Some of you might be better at this than others because you might have had to actually witness somebody overdosing, and it's very traumatic. Then you call 911. You give the first dose of Narcan. You squirt it all the way up the nose, and then you provide aftercare, which might require more doses. And finally, rescue breaths. This is something we can talk a little bit more about on the slide. Next. So the signs of an overdose. It's a nice list, but I would say you can often tell the person's really gurgling, struggling, the eyes might roll back. If you can see the person's eyes and the pupils are tiny, they're pinpoints, that would be a sign that somebody is overdosing as opposed to, say, a seizure. Also, their skin could be clammy, it could be blue. Look at their fingernails, the lips, and as mentioned, limp body. You try to wake them up and they're not waking up. Okay, so these are some signs of an overdose, but don't get hung up on it. Don't spend more than 30 seconds max trying to figure out if someone's overdosing, because this little baby will not hurt them if you squirt it up their nose and it turns out they're having a heart attack. So you're going to recognize the signs of an overdose, and then you're immediately going to, next slide, call 911. Okay, I suggest a speakerphone, or like when you learn CPR, you could have somebody next to you do it. Call 911 for me and say that they're unresponsive, they've stopped breathing, I can't wake them up. Narcan here that you're going to be giving them is not a substitute for getting the paramedics there. And I've talked to a lot of firefighters in the last year. They're not coming in looking around for drugs. They're coming in to save that person's life. So please don't hesitate to call. If you need to stand in the next room because you happen to be, a person who has provided the drugs, I would say no matter what, make sure somebody is there with them, because there's some more steps here, and this might be multiple doses. Okay, this lasts about 45 minutes, can be more, but approximately 45 minutes. The opioids in the system last much longer, up to 24 hours. So what are we going to do? Not leave them alone. Why? Because they could fall back into an overdose and die. Next. Okay, 1 dose of Narcan is your first big step here. So you're going to give a dose. The person, if it's basically, this talks about the plunger and everything that I'm holding here, and inserting it into the nostril and pushing up really hard. We like to put the person on their back and like tilt their chin up like it says on the package. That's not necessary. If this is a big, huge person and you're a tiny person and you're trying to like push them onto their back, or say they're a little resistant because they're like, gurgling and so on, this sprays like, when you spray this hard, there's just 1 dose and then you toss it, but this sprays really hard, and it's like a beautiful trajectory up into their brain, where you are blocking the opioid receptors from getting more opioids. So that's what you're doing. It's just like blocking. And think of it as an allergy spray, so it's not scary like, a syringe, for example, can be scary for some people. Okay, so then what we do after the first dose, we wait 3 minutes, give it a chance to work, and then we will be giving another dose in every 3 minutes until the paramedics are there. Hopefully they will be there in 6 minutes and you don't have to worry, okay? It would actually be 3 minutes, and then after the first one, you hit it again, 3 more minutes, so that's 6 minutes there. If you have to, again, 1 more dose or 2 more doses until the person revives. Okay, so the positioning, I'm not going to spend all this time on it. You want to roll them to their left side if the person is unconscious still. Say you give them one dose and they're still out of it, and they're not able to respond and talk to you. Gently, put their legs one over the other, put their hand under their head, and gently roll them onto their left side. That's the superior side, according to the paramedics. Why are we doing this? Why would we roll them around when they're overdosing? Yes, thank you. Similar to CPR, a person can aspirate, that meaning the vomit can go down into their lungs and or choke them by going into their throat. Okay, so we're going to keep the airway clear and open by doing this. Next. Okay, and then if the person isn't breathing at all, or it's completely shallow breathing and they're not getting, obviously it's not enough breathing to get oxygen into their brain, if you feel comfortable and you have, and this is something you're willing to do, we recommend CPR in terms of breathing, the rescue breathing. CPR actually nowadays often doesn't include rescue breathing at all because you can do the hand pumps without it. For an overdose, it's actually best to do rescue breathing. And why?
Oxygen into the brain.
Yeah, we're trying to get that oxygen and that Narcan up into the brain, right? So you give a couple puffs of breath, you wait, you see how it goes. You might have to bring them on their side, and if they happen to have thrown up, God forbid, but you're going to take them on the side and you're going to take the vomit out and you're going to flip them back. Now, one thing that really helps with this, with the yuck factor, would be that we give out CPR face masks. They're little keychains, and they say CPR mask on it. Okay. When you have that mask, you can unfold it, and Hannah will demonstrate over at the table. Put it on their face, right? And there's this little valve, and then you breathe hard into that valve, and it will inflate their chest, and then it will deflate. If it doesn't inflate, again, check for a barrier in their throat, or their mouth. Just kind of clear out their mouth.
Oh,
yes.
In the little packet, are there actual gloves as well?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we don't have gloves right now, but you can pick up gloves actually anywhere nearby and maybe keep them in your car or in your backpack. We've tried to minimize the things that at this point that we're providing because we want people to carry with them everywhere. And I have a backpack, but a lot of people carry a really tiny man purse or fanny packs, I think, are back, right? So if you're comfortable, this could be a family member and you're just going to jump in and do this. 80% of the time, we have people with somebody, and it is usually, it's often not a bystander. It's often a family member or a friend or whatever. So do what you can with the comfort level you have. You can always use a t-shirt or something to do rescue breathing. You can breathe through a cotton t-shirt. You can also I would use my, if I was concerned, I might pull my sleeve down and when I'm pushing someone over onto their side, but you're not going to be touching them much. And you do not have to worry about the fentanyl exposure if you're using either any kind of barrier between you and the person that you're breathing with.
Mm-hmm. So the rescue breaths are only if Narcan doesn't work. They're not in conjunction to giving the Narcan?
Yeah, I would say they're in conjunction with if they're having trouble breathing. And if they're having trouble breathing, we haven't had the desired result from the Narcan. If you've ever heard about someone, and they have videos for this, who has received Narcan and been resuscitated, they can be sitting up in a few minutes. They can be talking with you. If the person didn't respond to the Narcan, they would still be in a stupor, or they would be completely unconscious with very little to no breathing. So what I'm saying is, yes, sure, you could put them on their side and let them, breathe for themselves, because now with resuscitated, they're breathing, and you say, you're going to be okay. The paramedics are coming, just in case. But they shouldn't fall back into an overdose, because Narcan has, for at least 45 minutes, blocked that opioid from getting to the receptor in the brain. So they're not going to stop breathing after that. They're not going to stop, having the ability, say, to talk with you if they woke up and talked to you. So yeah, this is more if they didn't respond to your first one or two. And then you have to keep rolling them back, because again, if they're not breathing, you check the mouth, make sure the air is making their chest go up and down. I would do this. I would definitely do this for a family member. or my friend. You know, it's hard to imagine doing it with somebody you don't know. But then again, you know, you could be saving someone's life. So think about your t-shirt, think about whatever you've got on you, and consider it. Okay, next. Okay, and so this talks a little bit about how to do it and the chest rising. Of course, I forgot to mention of pinching the nose and tilting the head slightly back. But you can read up on this. We can use this as handouts and continue doing it until they breathe, or they're breathing on their own, or the EMS arrives, emergency medical folks. Okay, before I jump into frequently asked questions, does anyone here or on the Zoom audience have a question about using Narcan? Yes, please.
Not so much a question about how to
Yeah.
use it, but why does it come in like such a small amount, and then you have to apply more and more instead of it being like compounded? So,
right.
You know, if it's 2, I think it's like 2 milligrams.
Yeah. 4.
Oh, it's 4. So why isn't it 8?
Yeah.
Like 2 squirts inside of 1.
Yeah, perfect. The reason that it doesn't come in a stronger dose for Narcan is because the withdrawal that happens when you block those opioid receptors is pretty uncomfortable. It's pretty awful. Okay? And they have done some research that shows if you're giving, like, instead of the 4 milligrams, you gave 8 milligrams at once. There are some formulations like Cloxado that are that formulation, that the person not only has a more horrible withdrawal, you've sent them into, like, just, of course, they might throw up, but they might throw up anyway. But they're going to be extremely uncomfortable. Why is that an issue besides, feeling bad for them? Because another research study showed that people might be less likely to get help for their acute need if they just experienced how horrifying withdrawal is. So say often the people don't immediately go back to stop. They don't say, I'm going to go stop using drugs because I nearly died today. We actually found a window to check with people. There's a window there where they're the most receptive, and it isn't the next day. The next day, they're just trying to get high again. One reason is because all people that have a substance use disorder are terrified of withdrawal, being dope sick. So you don't want to make that worse. You want to try and bring them back, and then in 3 minutes, try again. And also, this is the formulation that has been determined by the California Department of Public Health to be the best right now. That's why we're getting it for free instead of always paying $45 per box. And that's why we can give it out to people for free. They might relook at that because fentanyl and other synthetic opioids, it might demand that as they become stronger and stronger, and other drugs that are related to fentanyl. But for now, this is your best bet. Thanks. Good question. Do we have any other questions about anything in the presentation? Yes.
So I know the damage it can do on the heart. How much damage can it do on the brain?
Absolutely. Yes. So, some people are worried. Oh, yes, absolutely. So the question was like, besides the damage that the overdose can do on the heart or opioids can do to your heart, what can they do to your brain? That is the respiratory system that feeds oxygen to the brain is one of the things that does get blunted and then eventually stops if you're overdosing, right? You won't be able to get oxygen to your brain. Many people come out of an overdose with next to no neurological problems. However, when you hear people say, oh, kids are just going to bring, they're going to bring Narcan to their parties, see how high they can get, and if they can bring each other back from an overdose, likely not a thing, but getting the word out about the fact that many overdoses do have lingering issues with the brain, like memory, for example, and other issues. That is an important part of why we would want to prevent the overdose from happening in the first place. We don't want to just reverse overdoses. When we're talking to people, and we have a lot of presentations, we have them coming up soon to schools, and we had one last week. We're talking also about prevention. How do you deal with kids where they are, often having had like a really tough time, particularly in the last few years with the isolation and the depression and anxiety around COVID and so many other things that have been going on in the world. How do we meet them where they're at and make it okay for them to come forward when they need help. And then how do parents and guardians and grandparents and everyone else, how do we help people when they might need to be assessed for a mental health issue, which could also sometimes be a substance use issue? Okay, so we'll talk about resources on the last slide, but I love that question. Thank you. Yes, please.
What actually is Narcan? If you don't mind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Narcan. This is naloxone. It's the medication called naloxone. It comes in sprays. It also comes in syringes. My sister had to reverse an overdose walking home from the park in Minnesota with her new kit of naloxone. They don't give this out. So she had to get, when she figured out that this poor man was overdosing, and his girlfriend was like, no, no, he couldn't be. He's in recovery. And she said, uh-oh. What was he using before he was in recovery? And she said, heroin. And my sister said, I might be able to help with that. Okay. And so she called immediately. She's got 911 on the line, and she's having to put a syringe into a vial and draw it up. Yeah, it was, her hands were shaking. It was terrifying. But she plunged it into the guy's, it's like a shoulder muscle. You can put it in the leg or the shoulder muscle. And he jumped up like a rabbit. You know, he was, oh my God, where am I? What happened? You know, and she was saying, you're going to be okay. You overdosed. We brought you back with naloxone. So it's a medication, but I don't really say that a lot because we've noticed when you're tabling with Narcan at the farmer's market or wherever, and people are walking by, we say medication, you know, for overdoses, and the people are just like, oh God, no, you know. If you say nose spray reverses an overdose, everyone should carry it, they come towards us. Okay, marketing, right? People are afraid of a medication. And now that this is over the counter, people are asking us, are kids allowed to have it? Yeah. And they might be going to a party where they need it. So we have 24/7 vending machines like the one up on 120 North Redwood in San Rafael and the nalox boxes. Why? Because on the way to a party or on the way to go be with a friend and watch, you know, a show, and the friend's going to get high, it's a really handy thing to have with you. Yes. Please.
The microphone
or I can, yeah.
Okay. As a parent of a 17-year-old, I brought my daughter some Narcan. Yeah. And I've asked her because they get a lot of good drug education at her school. I've said, where does your school keep Narcan? It's at the front desk. Okay, so how is that helpful on a Saturday night? Yeah. What are we doing to get the Narcan in the hands of all of our kids?
Yeah. This is a very good question. It was about Narcan in the schools. So we've been working on this behind the scenes with the schools in Marin County. First, what we did was we did trainings for all of the public school staff and educators. And then we did for nearly all of the private schools participated. However, it's a huge lift trying to get parents and, you know, the parent associations and the school boards and all the different districts to agree that kids should be able to get it at school. We do agree with that. Not everybody agrees with that. So one of the things that we have done is work with groups like the Youth Commission, who has so far been able to have training for kids, by kids, and I mean teenagers, young teenagers and older teenagers, so that they could have Narcan, know what it's for, know how to use it in a pinch, and potentially save a life. So there's just 2 schools so far that have done that. We have other schools now that are thinking about doing it, and we're working with them. But the private schools actually have a little more flexibility on this sometimes than the public schools. And it will take working with each of the schools or school districts independently, because it's not something that can be told to them. It can't be required. It isn't required that they teach kids about it. So we give out information about where to get it for free to all ages. Yes.
How early, as far as when it comes to children, how early are they going to do the education?
Yeah.
Like yesterday, we met with our youth group, and there was a comment by one of our students that, you know, the older kids, they go to the bathroom and bake. Like, that's what they're seeing. Yeah. We don't know what they're not seeing. These kids are like as young, they're what, 5th grade, 6th grade? and they know that the older students are going to the bathroom
Mhm.
and smoking.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I'm asking, like, how far does that training go down?
Yeah.
Because if we say high schools,
Yeah.
it's possibly too late because
Absolutely.
they're already doing it in middle schools,
Yeah.
if not the elementary.
Exactly. So we work with the Marin County Office of Education, and I do know that they're working with a grant right now where there are 3 or 4 middle schools that they're piloting a program with a group from Oakland called We Lift Ours. It's a very, very positive, very strong drug prevention message, and it does include things like fentanyl, even for middle schoolers. They don't lead with fentanyl. They lead with vaping and talking about alcohol and talking about numbing your feelings compared to nourishing yourself. And so they're doing a pilot so that that could be expanded to the other middle schools across Marin County. And in the meantime, we also are working on a settlement, an opioid settlement grant, to be able to do training for the high school students with something called Safety First, which is a comprehensive drug curriculum. It was most recently created, well, it was created years ago, but it's been redone by the Stanford Reach Lab down at Stanford University. So as soon as this fall, we are looking to have the teachers, the students, everybody in the high schools trained as well. They do get some drug education, and one really cool thing that happens is that there's a booklet called Let's Talk that is mailed to 6th grade and 9th grade parents in Marin. And we have copies of that as well. It's in English and Spanish. Only public school parents. Okay, so we can get it for other parents, but we have to figure out, and you can help us with that. If you need a certain number, we can get that distributed to your school. And so that's through a group called Marin Healthy Youth Partnership. We will be working with them as well on the curriculum. So yeah, there are things happening, but not, of course, never fast enough. And we're losing kids. So there are some, huge events that have been happening, like put on by combination of Marin County Office of Education, OD Free Marin, and a wonderful group called Song for Charlie. Charlie was a young boy that lost his life in Southern Cal, where his parents are activists in this area and trying to get to the different schools. They'll be speaking at Mark Day's school this week, which is, young kids. So it's important. And we have a film that can be shown at all of the schools that was developed by Song for Charlie, which we could send to you, of course, for the parents. But yeah, much more needs to be done. Totally agree. And it has to start young because it can't start in high school. That doesn't make any sense. And we do have to talk to our kids about these uncomfortable topics. Even if you have to introduce it as maybe your friends might be using drugs. You don't have to tell me at this point, but do you know some harm reduction? Do you know some ways to prevent them from dying before they can get help? And then, of course, as the trust continues to build, keep talking with them and see if you can figure out exactly what's going on. It's scary. Yes. I'm sorry, I might be running out of time, and if let me know.
I know that the counties, etc., states want really evidence based. What more evidence do they need? I mean, what are they looking for?
Yeah.
It's like the numbers are increasing, people are
Yeah.
dying. Narcan works.
Yeah.
What kind of metrics are they looking for to actually get things started? It seems like they're waiting for one person to do it first and then jump in.
Yeah. Well, there are, like with this small grant that we just got, and with, of course, with the opioid settlement as well, the evidence that they're asking us for primarily is we have population level things like turn the curve, bring the overdoses down. They want us to do that. They want us to focus on what's working. And I will send you a list it's actually from the CDC of the top interventions that we can do to turn that curve and then to reduce overdoses. So it does include Narcan as a huge one. Of course, prescribing went down. It went down an enormous amount, and you can see the results with, instead of this huge, the majority of drug overdoses being prescription opioids prescribed to you by your doctor, now it's like 10%, as I mentioned. So let me send you the list. It includes so many things that we can do, including talking with the kids. But we have to do grassroots at this point because there is also like what if at some point just having one school do something causes a ripple effect, so getting the word out, say San Domenico or Davidson, or Branson School, say they gave out Narcan to the kids there. Could that be something that we can build upon? So we will work with you to have an impact. I would say what they're looking for from grants and so on is the impact, the actual activities, how much Narcan is getting out there. That's easy for them to count. How many trainings, roughly? How many brochures are you giving out on medication-assisted treatment or other important topics? That's the kind of thing that they're asking us for. And so that's, in the contract we have with you, that's the kind of thing that we have control over. And then we will all continue to advocate for more.
Yes. I heard you mention testing strips.
Yeah.
This idea that came up. I remember back when they were like, this is kind of off topic, but saying how they were like having people like turn in, with gun violence, they have people turn in the guns and they get like something back.
Yeah.
Well, what if we took that approach for, different type of drugs, right? So people would bring it in. This is just a,
no, it's a good idea.
Like, what if we kind of had that type of campaign of like turn in a drug and then receive like some type of Narcan or something, incentive wise.
Yeah, there are definitely innovation grants. I would call that an innovation. And to kind of think that through, if they were turning in drugs, you'd likely have to have a sheriff or somebody there, like we did at the senior fair when people brought their prescription drugs mostly and put them in a big bin. And having a sheriff there would be a disincentive for quite a number of people to turn in their drugs.
Right.
So it's a little tricky, that one. But I like the way you think.
Yeah.
And I really like to think about innovative ways like the Nalox boxes, these Narcan boxes where people can just open the top and grab the Narcan and go. It's like a cheap vending machine, and we can put them everywhere. I mean, they're going to be, hopefully you'll put them in many places and people will be able to have 24/7 access. And we'll have like a list of where they can go to get Narcan in the middle of the night without talking to anybody. So what we're calling that is low barrier. Don't have any barriers. They might not even need a training at that point because, again, you're going to have the pocket card on the side, which does a better job of explaining these steps than I do. And a picture of the person on their left side, everything's covered on the card. And then there are videos in Spanish and English on our website. So plus resources on that little box that you're going to be giving out. So I would say, but I like the way you're thinking because we need more innovative thinking. We have to try some things we haven't done before. But first we have to make sure that are we hitting all those evidence-based strategies to reduce overdoses? And I will forward that, the list to you so we can show you, like highlight what is being done. Because a lot of times we don't even have time to tell you, what's happening. And we want to loop you in to help. Sure.
What kind of feedback are you getting from parents around, if any?
Yeah.
Hearing from them?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. We hear from parents all the time. Sometimes, like people that are on Medi-Cal in particular are asking, how can I get my child help? How can I get them inpatient help, right? And sometimes that's hard because you can't have inpatient help for adults in the same facility as you do for youth. So we might have to have, the child might have to go up to Sonoma County, for example, or to the East Bay. So we have a lot of things that we're doing right now that we talk to parents, and I've had parents call me, parents who are doctors, for example, and say, my child is out of control, not listening to me, out doing drugs, and I don't know where to begin. So I'm like, we need to connect you with the people first. We need to have you talk to the behavioral health access people. And that resource is also on our page. And the behavioral health, the people that will advise you is also on that little card on the back of the card where it says resources. Yeah, it's really tough for parents. It's a really hard time.
Just a quick comment.
Yeah.
We were just talking about how wonderful this presentation was, especially like for me.
Thank
I
you.
don't know much about this area. The other thought I had was I was speaking to my colleague earlier. It's like, as an African American, as a Black parent,
Yeah.
And as a young Black kid growing up, my parents taught us like what to do when the police talk to you or want to speak to you. So maybe this is the kind of thing that as parents all across the board, we can share that, hey, we've got to talk to our children about this potential problem with drugs. So as a black parent, as an Asian parent, as an African American parent, as a white parent, this is something that we can all, you know, feel each other's pain, passion, and love for.
Yeah, absolutely. And how to talk to your kids about it? Well, we will send you links to those, the online books. You know, the booklets, Let's Talk, are also available, really flippable books, really straightforward on where do I even start having that conversation? That's so weird and scary. And how do I let my kid know that if they do call for 911 help, right, that they're not going to, hopefully not going to have somebody come in and arrest them. That was, again, why my brother died, was his friend was there with him for more than an hour, but was afraid to call 911 because he didn't know about the Good Samaritan laws. So by the time the paramedics got there, Jerry was still alive, but they weren't able to come bring him back with Narcan, which would have definitely worked, like, you know, half an hour earlier. So yeah, it's really hard to believe. So that was one of the questions. We can send this slide deck if you would like. And it was basically Good Samaritan law, and I covered some of the other things that, you know, people ask regularly, but this is also on the OD Free Marin. Yeah. Do I need to call 911? Yes. Remember? Next. We'll go to the next one. Protected from liability? Yes, nearly always. There's some small print there. Like if you shot the person up with drugs, probably you would not be protected. Can I use it on myself? Nope. No, never. You would be close to unconscious. You're not going to have the ability to Narcan yourself. It has to be somebody with you. Does it have side effects? Minimal. Like the withdrawal effects are tough because you just block the overdose and they're like, you killed my high, and they could be angry about that. And so I step back while they're throwing up and being uncomfortable, but you've saved their life. So you know that. But it's not, if you accidentally give it, it's not a big deal. They'll have a wet nose. Okay, next. It lasts in your system. 60 to 120, I'm just averaging that. Actually, I would just assume less than that to be safe, 45 minutes, because you do need that EMT, you need the emergency medical people there. Next. It expires, but you don't have to worry about it. It's good for decades after that. We'll give you fresh Narcan, but never throw out that Narcan. It still works beautifully. And this is about how overdoses happen and so on. So we won't get into the weeds on all of this, but it's basically that questions you had about the oxygen. And yes, you can have after effects from an overdose where they can be pretty awful, the neurological after effects, if you don't get oxygen to your brain. How it works with the little receptors. Yeah, so these are just some questions that people have. And then if we get to the last slide, if we skip forward, okay, the last slide here, oops, sorry. Okay, that's about Tranq. There we go. Okay, this is the website that has the videos, the free Narcan locations, the little shields, which we can give you over here as well. We'll give you an example one, and you can purchase more, or we can get more for you. And just kind of some of this other stuff, like you're asking about recovery or just help. Like, does my kid have a problem or don't they? A lot of that assessment stuff is on the recovery page, our resource page. We have the data dashboard with the statistics, how to volunteer, which you are already doing an incredible job of bringing in people who volunteer or who are paid pennies to do the great work you're doing. And then, of course, harm reduction strategies, such as fentanyl test strips, xylazine test strips. We'll get into all of that on the website. So please connect with us. Go to the website if you want more. Mira and others can contact me, and I promise to send you a few follow-up items, which I'll make sure you get. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
So on our table, we have two different pamphlets. One is about the risks of fentanyl. We have them in Spanish and English. The other pamphlet, also in Spanish and English, is just general information about naloxone, which is also called Narcan. Naloxone and Narcan are the same medication, overdose prevention medication. This is what the Narcan box looks like. Inside each box of Narcan, there are 2 doses, and the doses look like this. It's a plunger, it's like a nasal spray. It'll come in like a pouch box like this. You open it up, and then that's how you can administer the Narcan. We also have these CPR face shields in this nice little pouch you can put on your keys. Oops. This is to be used in case someone is experiencing an overdose and they're not breathing. And so what you would do is this would be used to deliver rescue breaths. So you would place it on the person's face like this, pinch their nose, and then deliver rescue breaths through this valve.
Like what is it called? A funnel, a filter?
Yeah, it's like a filter. And so the idea here is that you would protect yourself in case someone has something in their mouth, like more substances, that could affect you.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Hannah.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, if people watch at home want to get in touch with your office, what is there a website? Is there?
Yes, there is a website. You can go on each box of Narcan. We have this little pocket card too. That gives us the website. You can go to odfreemarin.org, and there are resources for recovery for Narcan and training videos that explain how to bring someone back, revive someone with Narcan. And each pocket card has instructions.
Thank you so much. Great job, Hannah. Any thoughts, any comments, anybody?
Yeah.
So left side, like they're laying on their left side. We're not rolling them.
Right. So they'll be on their left arm, like this. And some people, like if you're having trouble rolling them over, if they're a larger person or you're not comfortable, something that's really helpful is once you like get some leverage, you can just grab the backs of their knees and pull, and that will kind of naturally help them roll over. So, yeah.
Is it naltrexone that this comes from, or now?
Strong reaction when they are treated with Narcan is those opioid receptors that Anita was talking about. This blocks them, it closes them completely, so your body's like, oh. And that's why people have such a strong withdrawal immediately, hopefully. So, yeah.
Oh, these are the face shields.
Yeah, so if you want, I can show you.
Yeah.
Basically, this is the shield itself. If you have time and are feeling comfortable, you would place this on top of their nose and mouth, find the person who's overdosing, and then pinch their nose and blow into this valve.
Like an airbag.